Hello, and welcome to Lancing Through Life. I'm Lance, and this episode is about setting the tone for what this space is and why it exists. Modern life feels pretty fast, loud, and simplified in ways that don't always feel true. I know that there's no shortage of opinions, advice, and answers out there, and I don't pretend to have all of them myself. I've even been pretty scared and procrastinating, putting things like this out there. But if we don't try at some point, we'll never know what possibilities or what things people out there in the world could learn from. I think that I've been, lucky enough to have crazy experiences in my life that I think could benefit other people. And I'd like to bring on eventually people that can also share their experiences. I think many conversations move too quickly toward conclusions, and we don't sit in how we got there too often. We just kind of, especially in this day and age with the age of AI, take the solution and we run with it. And I think that this podcast exists to slow things down a bit, to talk about it a little bit more, see what little nuances exist in the middle. This is a place to examine how life is lived and not explain it away. Curiosity matters more here than certainty, so we will be very curious in so many ways. I am a designer by instinct and training, and so I do like to try and figure out how things come together. I think design taught me how systems quietly shape our behavior, identity, and meaning. I think that there's so much that is lost within the patterns before conclusions are ever drawn. And we think way too fast as humans. We notice patterns not even fully cognitively. It's in our subconscious. And I like to question things that are presented as neutral, normal, and inevitable. I want to explore and question why things happen. I think that being a devil's advocate comes from curiosity and not opposition. I think that I can at times be a professional devil's advocate, especially if I'm in a conversation where I know that me and the other person are at the same end. I think then you need to play the other side a little bit so that you can try to understand other people's perspectives in so many different ways. So questioning is about understanding how things were built, why they were built, and what we can truly do with all of those answers and how they apply to other things. This podcast exists because discomfort in conversations can feel flattening and polarizing. And I think sometimes we need to sit in that discomfort. We need to explore it a little bit more. There's frustration with answers offered without context. I know that I am always a why person. And so this is the why. We figure out the why. We explore the why here. Self-help and media often skip complexity, and trust, this is not going to be a full self-help podcast. This is going to be a podcast where we get to explore how things or people have done things in order to get to the solutions that they have. And most of the time when you explore these things, it's not a clear-cut answer. I mean, sometimes, don't get me wrong, there is a clear-cut answer that is just nice and easy and simple, but that's not very common. Certainty is often rewarded more than honesty, and honesty is what we respect here. I want to hear the messy middle, and we'll get into the series a little bit more in depth later on, where we get to explore some more of the messy middle, but the space exists to hold nuance in contradiction. We want to explore the other side. We want to explore why we feel comfortable in ours. Growth usually happens in that messy middle, not at the extremes. So, what is this podcast? It's for reflection, curiosity, being personal without being prescriptive. We're not going to be self-help, as mentioned. It's just about being willing to sit in that discomfort, open to disagree and have some strong perspectives, be grounded in our lived experiences and the observations that we've made, and appreciate all the little mistakes that can add up to a beautiful experience or product. So what we're not really looking to do here, is be a how-to guide for living. There's no one way to live life. We're not about fixing anyone, not about offering universal answers. There are no universal answers. What works for one person doesn't work for other people, and that's fine. But it's fun to explore those different opportunities that people have to explore the universe and find their own answers. So we're not going to pretend that life is simple or linear here. We're going to go up and down and all around. This show is organized into a couple of thematic series, so we will get to explore those in the coming episodes in a couple of mini-series where I'll get to explain what some of those questions are and what directions I'd like to take some of those. But each series has topics that may overlap in some areas or inform others. But life makes more sense when viewed from multiple angles. And as you've gotten that as a running theme, we're going to look at a lot of those different angles. Some of those series that we're going to get to explore are, design and culture, psychology and emotional intelligence, relationships and intimacy, work, money, and modern pressures, as well as technology and the future. There's probably going to be some other things that we might dip into as we find them interesting, or even if people find that they want other subjects to be explored on here. This is not a one-directional space. Everyone has something to teach if you're willing to listen. That's been a big motto in my life. I think that everybody has something that you can learn from them. You just kind of have to figure out what it is. Reflection is as valuable as responses. So even once we get a response, we might have to pick it apart a little bit and see what led us to that. So listener questions and experiences may shape those future episodes. If people decide that, they have other things that they are curious about or want me to look into and speak about, or find other people to bring in with their experiences in those situations, I'd love to do that and have those conversations with those people. Or if you yourself feel like you have an experience that you're willing and wanting to share with others so that they can learn from it, I'd love to have you on. This podcast is going to be an ongoing conversation, not a finished statement. We will always be exploring. Even if we cover one subject, we might round about once we find new information, because you can only have conversations with the information that you have at the time. But I'm pretty good at bringing quite a bit of research to the table, and I hope that I can help people in that process. I want to appreciate everybody for their time and attention and supporting me through this process. It is a little nerve-wracking putting yourself out there in these ways. So there's always going to be some judgmental voices out there, but we have a lot of curiosity. And I think that, as mentioned, I've had quite a few experiences that could be worth sharing. So if you'd like to listen in, figure out what in these next couple mini-series might attract you, then I think it's a great place to start the conversation. Thank you for listening to Lancing Through Life. If something came up while listening and it's worth sitting with, then more episodes are going to be available wherever your podcasts are streamed. And until next time, stay curious. Thank you. Bye.